Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Rush Generations Health Education lecture. Rush Generations and our staff is delighted to be your source of information, resources, and health promotion programs that maximize your well-being and good health as you age. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. My name is Patrick Stanley, and I'm the Program Manager of Community Integration for the Rush Generations team, and I'll be your moderator for today's lecture, Aging with Pride. So before I present to you the wonderful panel that will be joining us today, I'd first like to thank Hannah for helping with the production of this lecture, helping us manage the chat and other key aspects so that we can have a great discussion about the LGBTQ older adult community, allyship, and health. So as always, we're live streaming this through our YouTube channel using the video platform Zoom, which allows us to host a good number of people who join us through phone. So thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are on YouTube, we ask that you please use the chat function to ask questions and to add to the discussion throughout the lecture. We will make sure that your comments and questions make it to the presenters. And for those of you listening to the discussion through phone, you will also have an opportunity at the end of the lecture to unmute your audio so that you can ask your questions. We'd like to remind you that all information offered here is for general informational purposes only, and to always seek additional professional advice for situations specific to you and your needs. So, without further ado, we will go ahead and introduce our panelists for today. So first up is Britta Larson. Britta Lawson. Britta is the Senior Services Director at the Center on Halsted, the Midwest's most comprehensive community center for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ community. She is responsible for overseeing the older adult programs at the Center on Halsted and the provision of case management services provided to the residents of the Town Hall Apartments, which is Chicago's first LGBTQ-friendly senior housing. She is a licensed nursing home administrator and holds a master's degree in nonprofit management from North Park University. Next is Cecilia Hardacker, also known as Cease Hardacker, a Rush alum of the Masters of Science in Nursing program. She is the Director of Education at Howard Brown Center for Education, Research, and Advocacy. In the 13 years Cease has been at Howard Brown, she has contributed to national consortia in LGBTQ plus cultural competency education, conducted bladder health research in SGM populations, has published, co-edited, and authored a book on trans and gender diverse older adults. Cease and her team are responsible for disseminating the health education about LGBTQ elders program known as HEAL, and this curriculum across the city of Chicago and the United States. And next, with Rush Social Work and Community Health, we have Sean Para, is the intake psychotherapist for the Department of Social Work and Community Health. With a BA and MA in psychology and an MSW from Boston University, they are currently completing PhD in social work at the University of Illinois at Chicago, focusing on the emotional well-being of BIPOC LGBTQ plus youth. Sean has extensive experience in community health and healthcare settings, specializing in trauma-informed and anti-oppressive therapy, particularly for Black, brown, queer, and trans individuals and Spanish-speaking populations. Perpetual Assem is the psychotherapy coordinator for the Department of Social Work and Community Health at Rush University Medical Center, who is centrally focused on managing the patient navigation staff and the referral workflow process. So without further ado, I will pass it over to our speakers who will each give us some more information about the work that they do and present us with some valuable information, and then we'll have our panel discussion.
All right, thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it. My name is Britta. I'm from Center on Halsted, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more about the programs and services that we offer here at the Center on Halsted, specifically for older adults. Next slide. So the mission of Center on Halsted is to advance community and secure the health and well-being of LGBTQ people in Chicagoland. And our vision is a thriving LGBTQ community living powerfully in supportive, inclusive environments. A little bit about Center on Halsted. So our founding dates back to 1973. Back then we were a fully volunteer-based organization. We've grown a lot since then. The building that we have in the Lakeview area opened in 2007. So folks might remember that. It feels like just the other day, and it's it'll be 20 years in just a few more years. We have over 1,000 people that walk through our front doors every single day. So it's a very busy spot. We also have expanded in recent years. We have the Center on Addison, which is where we have our senior center. It's next door to Center on Halsted. And 2 years ago, we opened Center on Cottage Grove, and that's our South Side location on 63rd Street in Cottage Grove. And we have programming and services offered out of that Southside location. A little bit more about our programs and services that are offered at Center on Halsted. We have a very large behavioral health department offering individual, couples, and group counseling, anti-violence project, HIV and AIDS, sexual health services, youth and family programming, senior services, which I will talk more about in a minute, trans and non-binary focused programming, a culinary arts vocational program called Silver Fork, our cyber center, and arts, culture, and community programming, and lastly, our training and public education. So a little bit more about senior services and some of the things that we're doing. We have a whole host of programs, and for the most part, the age is 55 plus to participate in programs. Everything that we do is geared for the LGBTQ community. We welcome everyone. I'm going to talk more about each of these bullets in a minute. Recreational, social, and educational events, wellness programs, employment services, technology assistance, and lastly, referrals and case management. I like to think of our program from a holistic approach to really make sure we're taking care of everyone's diverse needs and thinking about them holistically. So some examples of our programming that we're currently offering, and I will mention that everything is free of cost, free of charge. We sometimes have a $5 suggested donation for special events, but the lunch program, there's also a suggested donation, but no one's turned away if they are not able to contribute. So we host the City of Chicago Golden Diner program, which is a lunch program for seniors. We host that 3 days a week in our senior center, Center on Addison. We also have Reiki monthly, a peer grief and loss group weekly, senior yoga. We have 2 senior yoga classes twice a week, a senior advocacy group, educational workshops, health screenings, technology training, and intergenerational programming. Here's a photo from one of our guest speakers that we had during lunch. She might look familiar. It's Paula Basta, former director of the Department on Aging in Illinois, came by at lunch to talk with the seniors. So we have health workshops through a partnership with UIC student nurses, information about benefit programs, and various presentations from partner organizations. This is one of my favorite things that we're doing, and it just finished its 5th year with us. It was our intergenerational dialogue project. And so this is in partnership with the School of the Art Institute. It is a 9-month program. It starts and runs parallel to the students' school year. So it starts in September and runs through May. And we pair 15 elders with 15 students from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. They meet twice per month for a meal and intentional dialogue and conversation, large group and small group conversations. And then this year it culminated with an art exhibit opening here in our senior center. So if you're interested in getting involved with that project, let me know. We are currently recruiting for our fall cohort. Something that we started last year was an employment boot camp class. So we did 2 cohorts of it last year, and we're planning to do another cohort of it this fall. And it's basically a 2-week intensive job training program. And we invite a host of guests, many different guest speakers to come in and provide information about job searching, resumes, cover letters, interviewing. We actually practice all of those skills and get individual feedback on that. The group, they really have a strong sense of shared identity. Everyone in the group is an older adult looking for work, generally part of the LGBTQ community. And there was a strong kind of bond. And then the class culminates with a graduation at the end of the 2 weeks. So if you're interested in joining us for the fall cohort, please let me know. Another thing that I'll just mention, this is, we're in June and it's hot out, but in the winter, in November and December, we have 2 really large holiday events. So these events are all ages, but it winds up being mostly older adults. And we have the event on Thanksgiving Day and also on December 25th at no cost. The morning starts out with coffee and a light breakfast, and then we have the meal served at noon, followed by a holiday bingo game offered at no cost to the whole community. So I think last year we had close to 200 guests. So that's always something to look forward to. So Town Hall Apartments is something it feels like it's brand new, but it's almost 10 years old. So the building opened in 2014. This is really unique and needed housing for the community. So it's LGBTQ friendly, senior subsidized housing. So it's for people 55 years of age or older. And the majority of the residents identify as part of the community. Center on Halsted is a co-owner of Town Hall Apartments, and we have a new co-owner of Town Hall Apartments. It's going to be co-owned by Full Circle Properties, and so they're taking ownership as we speak. Center on Halsted, our staff provide the programs and services to the residents in Town Hall. So we have 2 full-time on-site case managers providing intensive case management services to the older adults who live in the building, and a whole host of activities and classes provided just for the residents of Town Hall. And our senior center is located adjacent to Town Hall. So the residents are welcome to participate in programming in our senior center as well. Oh, and I will mention the wait list is open. We can help folks apply to get on the wait list. I do believe it is a long wait list. My best guess is about 4 years. And that's a long time. So a lot of people are not able to wait 4 years. But if you know of someone who might be interested in putting their name on the wait list, we're happy to assist with that, but it can be done online. All right, so that's all for my presentation today, but I wanted to make sure everyone had my contact information. The organization's website is centeronhalsted.org, and you can find our current calendar listing all of our activities that I mentioned, centeronhalsted.org/senior.html. My email address and my phone is up there. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Britta. And next up is Cease Hardhacker from Howard Brown Health.
There we go. Everyone can see that, okay?
Yes, great.
All right, great. Well, good afternoon to everybody. Me llamo Cecilia Teresa, but everybody knows me as Cis. I'm a nurse and I'm the director of education at Howard Brown Health. Most people, I would imagine, know what Howard Brown is. I will do a super quick little 2 words about that, and then get on with what I wanted to talk about, which are culturally safe and inclusive approaches to LGBTQ older adult healthcare. When y'all invited me to participate and asked uh, for me to talk about this topic, I got very excited because I thought, oh, this is an opportunity for me to look and see if there's any new data or statistics out there, and any new studies that I can share with folks. And then I realized that you only gave me 10 minutes. So I ended up trying to do a very condensed, very dense little packet of slides here for you. So I will get moving right away. So the first thing is, of course, introduction to Howard Brown Health. We are the largest LGBTQ health center in the Midwest. Uh, Great friends and partners with the Center on Halstead. Britta, I loved hearing all the stuff that y'all are up to, and I didn't actually realize that you had a site in the South Side, which is fantastic. It adds so much to what's needed in that area. I really was really glad to hear that you had done that. I have to update this slide. I have listed 11 primary care sites here, and we have actually closed 2 in the very, very recent past. So we have 9 sites across the city of Chicago, as far south as Hyde Park, as far west as Garfield Park. And all of our services are listed here. HIV treatment and prevention, gender affirming medical care, behavioral health. We now have 2 dental suites, both north side and south side, and the wraparound social services that we provide. This is our mission and vision. I always like to have that listed for folks so that they can take a look and see what we're up to. And in the Center for Education Research and Advocacy, which is the division that I'm part of, our goal really is to provide education that honestly can transform the world beyond our clinic. So we spend a lot of time doing education at places like Rush, at absolutely anywhere we can go. Honestly, anyone that will have us, we will, we'll go and provide education to really focus on how to best care for LGBTQ people, and particularly older adults, as that's been a focus of my work the entire 13 years that I've been at Howard Brown. So, I was asked to discuss the issues that older LGBT adults may face finding appropriate health care. I thought the first place to start was that we really need to acknowledge that this group has experienced discrimination and have been pathologized within the medical system, often causing them harm, no question about that, and establishing a barrier or barriers to care. When I looked at the most recent statistics that I could find, we got some wonderful information from the Movement Advancement Project, which is based here in Chicago. And looking at some of the numbers, first at how many folks we're really talking about. We're talking about almost 3 million. Well, that's not almost 3 million. There's 2.7 million adults over the age of 50. 1.1 million of those are over the age of 65. And all of these numbers are increasing at a very, very rapid rate. 20% of those folks are people of color, and it is estimated that by 2050, that will double. 1/3 of older LGBT adults live at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. And when we look at those numbers, which change every year, that's an incredible small amount, nowhere near the amount needed to have what we would call a living wage, and even that is questionable. So particularly for older adults who are on a fixed income, typically dealing with chronic health issues, it becomes something that is very, very difficult to manage, and particularly so for LGBTQ folks as a group. Now, the thing that's hard to do when we're talking about all of the groups, so it's hard to do the entire acronym and think of it as a monolith, right? Because all of those groups that fall under that umbrella are very different, right? So if we broke them out by group, we would see that of the folks that are represented by a letter, that their ability to to deal with all of this, or that their experiences with healthcare are different. So if you look at research that I haven't really listed here, but if you look at different the experiences people have with healthcare from different groups, it varies tremendously. So I would say that the people that have the most difficulty are folks within the trans community, particularly trans older adults. And I would say that after that would be folks who identify as lesbian. They also have a more difficult time, again, because these are groups that have greater disparities, have greater barriers, whatever those may be. So the Movement Advancement Project and SAGE, most people know SAGE, Services and Advocacy for GLBT Elders, out of New York and across the country. Recent report showed that the key challenges that really affect folks in these groups are this lifetime discrimination that they've experienced leads to economic insecurity. And there's this really great article that I read, and there just wasn't going to be enough time to put all of that information in my talk today. Showed an example of two different women, one a heterosexual woman and one a lesbian, and it showed a career path side by side, and at various points it showed where the lesbian individual either had to make a choice or had something imposed upon her that created a challenge, created a barrier, was flat out discriminatory, put them in a position where they would have less economic security. And it was really fascinating to see, because by the time they got very near the end of their lives and they had lost their partners, the heterosexual person was still had a pretty fair support system and economic security, while the other person, the lesbian person, was in very, very bad shape financially, had very little support that they could count on. I would like to say that is completely improved, but it hasn't. I know that is still a challenge for some people, depending upon where they're from and depending upon what barriers they're dealing with individually. So one of the things that the recent study found was that the reliance on chosen family may lead to dwindling support as people get older, that those folks may not be around. Caregivers tend to be from a social group when LGBTQ people have that reliance. Excuse me, and that those numbers get smaller and smaller and smaller if you don't have more of that generational support, which is why I love the program that you have, Britta, with the intergenerational meetings. I think that's a great idea, and it really could be something incredibly sustainable and important to support people who are older, LGBTQ folks. And then, of course, the one that I spend most of my time paying attention to is the lack of competent, inclusive healthcare that exists, that can and does result in poorer health outcomes. So there already are things that are difficult for people navigating healthcare programs. Please excuse me. Insurance coverage, caregiving programs and services that they may not be familiar with and may not have help to help them work their way through that. And so what's the result? Well, I think next speakers are going to talk about the higher rates of psychological distress, mental and cognitive disparities, certainly anxiety, depression, substance use as people get older, and then, of course, those physical health outcomes, chronic conditions, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and various types of physical disability. So there's a lot there. And you might see those and you might say, well, gosh, that happens to everybody when they get old. Not necessarily so. It's something that we see higher incidence in these groups for sure. When we look at this comparatively, they definitely are studies that show that those disparities are higher than their cisgender and heterosexual counterparts. I should have put that part in. So what's important for us to take a look at is this intersectional approach. What are all the things that affect a person's ability to engage with the healthcare system? So what are the social determinants of health that influence a person or a couple or a family and their ability to be able to get the care that they need? Race and ethnicity, unfortunately, to this day, still plays is an incredibly powerful factor influencing a person's ability to access healthcare. Structural stressors, public policy, something like, and this is, very, very current, that when, we're watching the news in media and we hear that there's a threat to the types of policies that will be available to people, that rights could be taken away, all of that has an exposure to medical mistreatment. All of that influences access, which influences consistent care, which influences appropriate and timely care. And all of that contributes to those poorer health outcomes. So this is our friend Stephanie. Everybody knows Stephanie. What's first and foremost? We just need more training for primary care physicians on both LGBTQ plus issues and older healthcare needs. So every time I go and do a training and talk to people, I ask them, who wants to be a geriatrician? And then no hands go up. It's really frustrating, but I insist upon telling them that unless you're going to be working with brand new people coming into the world, you're going to be working with older adults, and it's really important that that training be in place for them. So think about policy and other approaches. We want to make sure that we're looking at these structural competency approach, which allows for many other areas to really investigate and treat the factors that affect LGBTQ folks' healthcare needs later in life. Really focus on the actual sources of a health issue rather than getting care that's just a temporary bandage, or you just can't ignore the structural forces that drive these barriers to care. Prioritize cross-cultural and international perspectives in the study of older LGBTQ adults. Other countries, I hate to say it, but there are some that do a much better job taking care of their older adults in general, including all the LGBTQ folks that are part of those communities. So there's so much that we can do, and you gave me so little time to talk about it, but I did want to just quickly touch on many of those things. And I have, of course, if you want to nerd out, you can have some other things to read. There are some really great articles. There's a brand new one from 2024 that was excellent. So I think that's all I had for you. And I will wait until we get all done to see if anybody has any questions.
Steve, thank you so much. Such an incredible leader in this space, and just great information, and we'll have plenty of time for discussion as a panel. So don't sweat it. So all right, thank you so much. And next up we have Perpetual and Sean to talk about their portion as well. So I will pass the mic along to them.
Hi all, I think you can hear me. It looks like our video, we are not allowed to open our video on just yet. Thank you. Hi. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me as I go through the tech stuff. And I will present this. Well, thank you so much all for being here with Perpetual and I. My name is Sean. I use they and ele pronouns for my Spanish-speaking folks.
And I'm Perpetual, and I use she, her pronouns. And I am excited to be here with you all to talk about our psychotherapy offerings, as well as some of the things featured in the Affirm Clinic.
And just want to say a big thank you also to Rush Generations hosting us and having us be in this space together. So thank you all. We just kind of gave our introduction. So we are part of the Rush University Medical Center's Social Work and Community Health Department, along with Rush Generations. So thank you again for having us. Just to kind of set up an agenda for what we're going to speak about. We're going to speak about psychotherapy, the individual psychotherapy process at our clinic for the psychotherapy clinic, and then some supplemental psychotherapy offerings that we provide, which include groups, and as well as individual EMDR, which we'll get into a little bit more. And then lastly, we'll touch on the Affirm offerings, particularly because we are collaborating with Affirm on our LGBTQ+ group. So just to kind of ground us and start off with what is psychotherapy, it's just another way to say therapy, counseling, or talk therapy. It's a way for us to just kind of work with individuals to learn about their specific issues and how their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are affecting their mood. In that way, we're working with you as a therapist to look for ways to be able to feel like you have more control over your life and respond to challenging situations with healthy coping strategies. There are many psychotherapy options, which we'll kind of talk about in our supplemental section, but all of them sometimes might be a good fit, and sometimes they might not be a good fit. So it just depends on what's your speed, what you enjoy. Just to kind of break it to our actual clinic at SWATCH, which stands for Social Work and Community Health. We are a group of social workers, as well as one counselor now, one licensed counselor, and we provide therapy, thinking of people in their environment. So really understanding that, the way that we are positioned in the world changes how we might cope with things or deal with things. So really being informed of like what context people live in is really important for us to be able to intervene and support individuals in getting the individual care that they need. Our goal throughout this is to provide accessible mental health treatment, which can be virtual or in person. And it's with the idea that we work with adults across the lifespan using what we hope is a trauma-informed care perspective, which is really just thinking about how people are. I think the statistics around 70 to 80% of individuals have experienced at least one traumatic event in their life. Not everybody gets a formal post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis. But the idea is that you come in with some sensitivity, some care, and that way, if something does come up, hopefully we're not re-traumatizing in that moment. We provide services both in English and Spanish, and we are proud to provide a large portion of our services to Medicaid recipients. Connecting that with our trans community, some of our providers are trained in letters of readiness being for folks who are interested in transitioning, whether that is top surgery, bottom surgery, etc. We will do an assessment and we would write that letter for the individuals to be able to get the care that they so deserve.
Perfect. Thanks, Sean. So we'll kind of zone in even more to talk about what the process actually looks like to get engaged in services with our team. So typically it all starts with a referral. So that referral can be placed by you, your medical team, and we also have online options via phone, or like I said, you can get connected if you talk to your medical provider at an appointment. So once you are referred over to our team, we're going to go through an insurance verification. And so just making sure that you are aware if there is any cost of those costs up front, so you can make the best, most educated decision before you start down this road. And then we do have a navigation team. And so they're usually that first point of contact, really friendly folks that you're going to be talking to help you do any scheduling and kind of talking through that insurance piece. And then just answering any questions that you have. I know approaching therapy can be scary or difficult, and so they're going to make sure to get you in the door and answer any questions that you should have. Once you get through that initial referral process, we're going to try to get you set up for an intake if you're eligible. And so that intake is really an hour-long, 60-minute assessment. And that's the time when you're going to be meeting with our intake therapist or someone else on the staff. This is our intake therapist, Sean. Sometimes we do have you meet with another therapist, and really that time is to get an idea of what you have going on and create an assessment plan. So those intakes are offered both in person and virtually. And it's really just a time to make a plan for what your needs are at the time, whether that's going to be receiving services with our team, or making sure that you have that wraparound care and get connected elsewhere, if you're in need of services that we're not able to offer. So if you do move through the referral and intake process, and you are found eligible for services with our team, we're going to go ahead and place you on a wait list. And so the amount of time that you're on that wait list can tend to vary, but we do try to be as upfront with those expectations as possible. And then we'll update you if there are any changes as well. So while you're on that wait list, we're going to be making sure to be in communication with you as well. So you're not just out there floating on your own. Once you are at the top of the wait list, you are going to be assigned to an ongoing therapist. And then once you connect with that ongoing therapist, you'll start to make kind of a treatment plan from there. And they are going to, like I mentioned, have that wraparound care. So if you need services with our team, we'll have that. But if you need some additional resource supports, we also have those opportunities as well. So I know that was a lot. Hopefully that visual is helpful. And like I said, we do have a really top-notch team that's going to talk you through each step of that process to make sure you feel informed and that you're comfortable.
Thank you, Perpetual. So we're going to jump on over to some of the supplemental psychotherapy offerings besides the individual therapy that we do provide at our clinic. And that mainly is in group format. So I'm actually leading the LGBTQ plus psychotherapy group. And it's led by individuals who identify within the community, including myself. During the fall and spring semester, we do have an intern from our FIRM clinic. A FIRM clinic is the predominantly known as the clinic that supports with providing gender affirming care for individuals who are trans. And so we created this collaboration to kind of really support our LGBTQIA plus individuals. I think that our team was very much like, we're missing this, we're wanting to support individuals who are part of the community. So the group is for individuals who are 18 plus and who are based in Illinois. We do this by doing interpersonal processing. So interpersonal processing is just a fancy way to say that if you're in this group, you're hopefully sharing your experiences that are focused on your emotions and how to express them, and then also working towards your individual goals. So really just being able to hear from others, support each other, and learn from each other. And I always talk about how me as a clinician, yes, I'm a facilitator, but I am not just the leader. I think this is what we do together to really build that relationship building, and really make it that we're in a comfortable space to feel like we're able to share and also able to learn and grow together. So I always say I'm a student in this as well. And we meet weekly Wednesdays at 10 in the morning to 11:30, and it is a virtual group. I think another piece we were noticing is that a lot of groups within our communities, it makes sense. A lot of folks do work 9 to 5, but there are some folks who do not. And so really trying to meet at a time that doesn't necessarily fall within that typical 9 to 5 for individuals who don't always get to have a group setting. So that's our group offering.
And our other group offering is going to be the EMDR focused psychotherapy group. And so similar to the LGBTQ plus group, that is going to be a virtual offering. And so the group is for folks that are impacted by community violence. And if you have any questions about that, I would definitely recommend reaching out and we can kind of assess and see if you would be a good fit. So to kind of set the foundation, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And so a lot of folks have probably seen it kind of in society or in social media, but the idea is really for folks that have a difficult time doing kind of the traditional talk therapy. This is an alternative, and so it's really focused on having that kind of body connection to be able to engage with some of the trauma that you've faced in the past. And it's really to help out with folks that have those acute physical and emotional responses to trauma. So we have a therapist that is specialized in that. It is for adults 18 and older. Like I said, we'll share about how to connect with our team and our information. If you're at all interested, I definitely recommend reaching out and seeing if you would be eligible for either of those groups.
And then lastly, I kind of brought this up already. I started speaking about Affirm. Affirm is not part of the social work and community health department. They're a part of the CHI department, which stands for Community Health Equity and Engagement. Thank you. I appreciate that. I was dropping one of the but Kenji Kuramitsu, who is part of the Affirm Clinic as a social worker from social work manager over there, that's when we started making the brainchild for the LGBTQIA plus group offering. So wanting to just present this as well to this space. Affirm is just like their commitment is to gender affirming care. They're an interprofessional, multi-departmental effort, which hopefully is supporting with the clinical, educational, research, and community-based initiatives that they are part of. A lot of the services that they provide are about behavioral health, so that can be either individual therapy or through our group option that we are co-collaborating on. They also provide gender-affirming clinical specialties such as endocrinology, voice therapy, gynecology, HIV care, primary care for adults, adolescents, and pediatrics, so kind of across the lifespan that way. They provide specialty care as well, such as obstetrics, oncology, orthopedics, and neurology. Surgery that can be gender affirming or non, and then any patient navigation, so getting the support to get connected to the services as they need. So yeah. We just want to thank you in this time that we were able to share with y'all. Look forward to any questions, but here is the information for both our clinic. The SWAT stands for, again, Social Work and Community Health. That's our direct line for our hotline. So either Perpetual or one of the care navigators would be able to connect, speak with you over the phone. But then there's also our website if you want any more information. And then if you want more information about the Affirm Clinic, they say to email or call, and then that's their website as well. So thank you, and happy Pride, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you so much, Perpetual and Sean. So I'm going to invite all of our panelists to turn their video on so that we can have a bit of a panel discussion together. And I kind of want to start off because you all have, such amazing programs that you're bringing out to the community and do such amazing work. So I want to start off with asking if you have questions for each other. Do you have any questions, curiosities about each other's program or each other's work?
I have a question for Cease.
Uh-oh.
You've been at Howard Brown a long time, and I'm wondering how things have changed over those, I think it's 12, 13 years, and specifically your work, the HEAL curriculum, the trainings. Thanks.
I was wondering which direction you were going to go, so thank you for where you ended up. So honestly, my role at Howard Brown has changed many, many times. When I was very first hired 13 years ago, I was hired just to do to be a trainer for the HEAL curriculum. So we were really focused on getting that content out to as many people as possible, and it has stayed a part of our funding stream the entire time I've been here. So so for me, that original grant, I remember it saying that they wanted it to be something that was sustainable, and it has been, which is something I'm incredibly proud of. Literally thousands of people have had the opportunity to see that curriculum. So it's something that I'll always be proud of that, the work that we've done. And what we've been able to do recently, the last few years, is provide education for a fee, right? Everybody pays for trainings, and that's something that we didn't do when I first started, and I was honestly astonished that wasn't part of our our revenue generation. So since then, one of my biggest goals has been to establish that, and we've done that. Last year, we made more than enough to pay for one full-time person. So we've seen incredible growth. the need has not gone down. You know, that would be another hope I would have, is that, you know, people need maybe less education, but what we're really finding out is they need more. And so we try to really make sure that we're available to as many people as we can. We do a lot of internal training, which is also incredibly important. If you're going to call yourself the largest LGBTQ health center, then you really need to be just exceptional in the care that you provide to those folks. And so we do a lot of internal training to make sure that we that our people are up to date and you know, on the cutting edge, as we always like to say. So it's changed, you know, bit by bit in different directions over the years. Probably the thing that I'm most happy about is we went from a department of 1 to now a department of 5. So that's very, very exciting that we've been able to, like I said, to sustain the department, to continue to provide really incredible education for people, not just around Chicagoland, but all around the United States. And honestly, the pandemic has been pretty good for us because these kind of meetings tend to be easier for people to attend. And so we've been able to really expand our outreach even more since the advent of these types of virtual spaces. So yeah, so it's and I just, you know, to this day, I tell people, you know, they ask me, what's the best thing about Howard Brown? And yes, it's patient care, and that's an amazing, amazing benefit, but I think it's such an amazing learning space. It's an environment where people can learn as providers, as students. Just we just have so much to offer in that way. So thanks for asking.
Of course.
Thanks
And
for
thank you
sharing.
building-
Congratulations.
Thank you for building that space as well. Anyone else on the panel have questions for each other?
I did want to ask Britta about that in your intergenerational program. Tell me more about that. When did that start, and what do folks do? I just think that that's an incredible opportunity in so many ways.
Yeah. So it's been wonderful to see the growth and evolution of the dialogue project. So it started in 2019 and it was very small. And at that time, the students who were doing it were not doing it for course credits. And then COVID happened and everyone thought that it would stop, but there was a strong interest and need to keep conversations going. So it pivoted to be virtual. And now it's back in person, and the students are getting course credit for participating in this project. They meet weekly here with the elders, and then on the off week when they're not meeting with the elders, they have coursework and they have readings to prepare them for conversations. A lot of it is focused on shared history, terminology. They talk a lot about identity, language. A lot of the older adults have questions about the word queer or concerns about the word queer. So there's lots of shared learning back and forth. It involves 4 professors across 3 different schools, all from different disciplines. So that's really kind of interesting to see how these professors who are really leading this approach this work. They got a big grant from the Spencer Foundation this past year. It's a 3-year grant. I don't know exactly how much, but it's big. And it was apparently very competitive to get. So that's great. But of course, you know, we're moving into year 2 of the 3-year grant. So they're already thinking, you know, what happens with funding once this grant ends? So looking to your point, Cease, about making the work sustainable and to continue it, there's a research component. So they do have students, graduate students who are participating in the project. This past year, thanks to the Spencer Foundation, they were able to pay a stipend to 2 elder facilitators who are graduates of the program to come back and kind of give space for older adults to process what's been happening in the group and to talk about their reflections. And so every year it just gets bigger and bigger and more exciting. This past year, at the end of the first semester, it culminated with a storytelling event. The group decided to keep that private just to themselves because they were nervous. And so outside guests were not welcome, including myself, but they met in the theater and they had a fantastic time. And then a few of the folks did share their story during our art exhibit opening in May. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just really fantastic to see that dialogue across the generations, that learning when there's a project, happening or kind of culminates in a way, the energy, excitement, of course, everyone's nervous leading up to it, and not sure if it's going to come together in time. And then of course it all does. And after the art exhibit opening, all of them go out to the bars together, which is really fun to see. So yeah, lots of different intergenerational things can look a lot of different ways, including going to the bar together. So yeah, thanks for asking.
That's great. I love it.
All right. Yeah, thank you all so much. So, see, something that you mentioned in your talk was around, providing these trainings for future healthcare providers, but also current healthcare providers, and how a lot of folks who have this interest in working with the LGBTQ population don't necessarily have the interest of working with the older adult population, not realizing that this is a huge population that, that's growing and aging into their senior years. So I remember from years ago the concept of geriatrizing the workforce. So like taking people who have gotten into the workforce and they're like, they are realizing, oh wow, I have to work with older adults, but I didn't take any coursework in this. Could you talk a little bit more about that work and how you work to make all spaces LGBTQ senior friend? Like, how do you make LGBTQ spaces friendly for seniors?
So that's a little tricky. We tend to be, as a nation, fairly ageist, and I'm not dissing on anything to say that our communities are probably worse at that than even generally in the country. So recently I was at a PA school, and the first thing I ask everyone is, what's going to be your area of practice? By then I think they were third year students. What's going to be your area of practice? And I was, so how many people are going to be geriatricians? And like one hand sort of very timidly went up. And I said, okay, thank you. How about the rest of you? And they, I'm going to be an internist. I'm going to do this, family medicine, blah, blah. So they all started. And I said, well, unless, the handful of you that said you wanted to work with, brand new people being born into the world, the rest of you will very likely be working with older adults, whether you know it or not. And here's why: because this is the growing population of older adults that you may or may not be aware of. And oh, by the way, a lot of them are queer or LGBT. You have to have that's why I'm here with you today, because and then I ask, have you had any of this content before? And they all say no. And have you had what you would consider an adequate information about sexual health? And they all say no. And then I have to remind them all that older adults are sexual beings, and we have to keep that in mind as well. And they all go, and then they all get really nervous. So it's a lot of fun because I feel very comfortable challenging some of those ideas and thoughts, and so making that clear to them that they can't go forward. Now that you know what you don't know, you're responsible. You have to hold yourself accountable to what you don't know. And so as you go on in your coursework, if you have a professor who doesn't touch on something that you think is really important about LGBTQ people or older adults or whatever, I said, it's your job to challenge them on that. I know they're the ones that give you your grades. I know all that stuff. Trust me, I've been in that situation even when I was at Rush. It's important to do that because it prompts discourse. It opens up topics that haven't been open before. So yeah, it's hard to, like I said, if we live in an ageist society anyway, and even more so for LGBTQ people, how do we build that bridge, take that intersectional approach I talked about before? We really have so much that we can focus on, but it's getting those opportunities. You got to get in there, and that's what's difficult. A lot of times curriculums are set, it's hard for them to make space for new information, so we try to wiggle it in however we can. So I've been pretty successful lately with talking about how to do a good sexual health intake, something that's culturally safe and gender affirming. And I always bring in information about older adults. It makes a big difference. So good question. Thanks for asking.
Of course. Sean, I saw you on mute. If you
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm so sorry. I must have done it like subconsciously because I was just like excited about what you all have been saying. But I agree. I have the pleasure of not just working here, but also I teach at UIC, their LGBTQ plus course as well. And this intersectional lens perspective that you're speaking of, it's like something I always like remind people. I'm like, well, let's bring age in here. Like, what does that look like? And like bringing in research articles for aging adults, older adults, whatever term we want to use. But I'm thinking about what you're saying here, Season, how I think one of my professors from when I was doing my master's in social work, one of the things he had said to kind of bring the intergenerational stuff you're speaking about, Britta, but just speaking about how there's this ideology of, right, like, well, they're too old to get it, or you're too young to get it. Well, even you can go on opposite sides of the spectrum, right? And what a disservice that is doing to you, because you don't know what assets or capacity this individual may have, and maybe they might not know everything, but everybody has something to give. And so, if we're already discrediting them before they come to the table, then we're doing a disservice to the work we're trying to get done. So, I just appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely. I love anytime that we're able to take a strengths-based approach and really look at the resiliency and the strengths that our community and our older adults bring is always a really great place to start. We do have one question from a viewer, which is for the Affirm program. So what was the impetus that caused Rush to say we want to start the Affirm program, and why focus on that population? And also, how has that program grown and changed since its inception?
That is a great question. I wish Kenji was here because I think Kenji could speak to this a little better than I can, since Kenji is the social worker based out of there. So to be quite clear, I'm not sure on like what was when the decision came about. They were like, let's make this clinic an actual clinic. And what's interesting about the Affirm Clinic too is that a lot of folks have kind of dual roles. They're like not just a physician through the Affirm Clinic, but also the physician through the primary care department, but also the psychiatrist sees both general population as well as the Affirm. So it's interesting. A lot of people kind of did this out of like a labor of love, where people are like, we need to start doing something about this. So let's figure this out. So I really just want to shout them out on all that they're doing. I would definitely encourage you to connect with them. I know I had provided the contact information in the video earlier, to see a little bit more about what was the impetus about why they made the decision. So I apologize that I can't give you a more thorough answer, but I'm sure Kenji and or anybody from that clinic will be happy to answer a little better.
Great, thank you. And I know that the program has really expanded in the most recent years to really provide comprehensive wraparound services for people who are hoping to access gender affirming care. That's one of the biggest things of like, making sure there's social work care, care navigators, therapists, offerings, medical care, primary care, endocrinology for people who are managing transitions and providing, a one-stop shop where they can get everything that they need, which is yeah, really it can be really challenging, especially since, as you mentioned, we really try to serve a lot of folks with the Medicaid population. Um, okay, so another comment from the audience is so we've talked a little bit around the services that we provide for providing spaces for LGBTQ older adults, as well as educating providers in LGBTQ organizations, building up the capacity of people to experience more LGBTQ competent care wherever they go. Um, but are there any services out there that help LGBTQ older adults navigate the medical system? Because it can be really daunting for a lot of LGBTQ older adults who are likely to be alone and have had a lifetime of being discriminated against in these systems.
So I know that we have an incredibly overworked benefits navigation department at Howard Brown. It's just a few people trying to help a whole lot of people. And I suspect that Britta, y'all have services or something very, very similar, but it's no matter what it is, it's not enough. Let's just put it that way. If I had years ago, we talked about having in-home service for older adults. That's when we thought we were rolling in cash and we could start a new program where we actually did some home visits and that, and in that way would be able to help people navigate quite a lot of that. But yeah, that's not. And I would love for us to have a volunteer program that could potentially, that those folks could potentially have those skills, but alas, we do not.
Mhm.
I will add that we do short-term case management here, and we're not necessarily the experts in all arenas about health insurance, but we're most familiar with Medicaid. I do have a really good referral for a SHIP counselor if someone needs Medicare assistance. And I do have another good referral for someone who can help people sort out supplemental insurance policies, because that's a whole nother beast. So I try to have a team and a bench that we can refer to if needed, but we're happy to connect people as best we can. So yeah, great question.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on, it seems like everyone kind of has something similar. We have our patient care navigation team through our social work and community health department, but then also Affirm has their patient care navigators who would be more specialized in, I think, trans and gender like affirming services. With that said, we also do have a SHIP counselor through our SWATch department. We actually have, I think, a couple people who are trained in it to provide that service to support with any Medicare assistance and navigating the very scary benefits of the world. I don't know. I think about just healthcare systems in general sometimes are really hard to navigate. So, and then on top of it, insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just want to say our line for Rush Generations is the same line that you would call for a social work intake. So essentially, we take anyone, regardless of where they receive their health care, insurance status, immigration status, etc., and can provide social work care management services to help people gain access or navigate their healthcare. And so that is something that we always continue to offer for the community. Again, regardless of where people receive their healthcare and any other factors. So, and can promise that even though social work and community health is not, officially an LGBTQ health organization, I can promise you that all of our care managers that would be taking on that case are very LGBTQ friendly and competent. So, yeah. So, um, I do have one question, but before I do this, I want to open it up to our phone lines as well as our folks who are on YouTube. I want to encourage you to ask questions. And if you are on the phone line, you can press *6 to unmute if you have a question that you would like to ask. And while I guess while as people are typing their questions or thinking about them, I will ask my question that I have as well, which is what's one of the best life lessons that you've gotten from one of your LGBTQ older adults that, what's a lesson, a piece of advice, something that you've learned from them as they've navigated this world as LGBTQ seniors and how it can inform all of us who are LGBTQ and are aging, because we all are aging, right?
I'll start. I've been here 14 years, so I really, really love my job and I love what I do. And I appreciate the opportunity to get to work with these clients every single day. And what I most admire about them is their sense of resilience and strength. It, of course, has come from a place of necessity throughout their lifetime. But really, no matter what curveballs that are thrown at them, what kind of twists and turns their health might take, they have such determination to fight through whatever they're going through and to come out the other side. And that really inspires me.
Britta,
you
know this, oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you know the person that I'm going to mention, and that's Mr. Don Bell, that almost everybody knows. If you know the Chicago community, you know Don Bell. And Don, to me, has been one of the greatest examples of honestly the epitome of pride and being self-assured and proud of what he has accomplished through the course of his life. He talks about being an activist from the time he was a young man and continues to do so. And I think about when I was a young person and was very, very closeted in Nebraska, that it was a completely different experience. And to meet someone like Don, who's just been doing it and not giving a damn for a long, long time, somebody like that just truly inspires me. I mean, he's not that many years older than I am, but even so, and there are so many, but he was just the first one that came up to mind. I had an image of Stephanie Clark, who's an amazing woman. There's so many people from around our community that I know that are inspirational just by the fact that they've lived their lives the way they want it, as authentically as possible. So, I would say that, people say I'm an older adult, and, you can stuff that because I'm not quite there yet. But there's something just so powerful about, having people like that around that we can tap into as resources. It's really lovely.
Yeah, I think I'll add a little bit here from more recently in the group that I'm running, the LGBTQIA plus group, a discussion we were having in processing. One of a couple of the members are over the age of 50, and the discussion was like, I transitioned like back in the 80s. That was such a hard thing, and now learning that there's not just one gender or the other, there's like so much more, and they're learning now. And like I think the discussion itself was just so beautiful to see, because it was like, I am excited for the continued growth that keeps happening, even though we don't see it like day to day. We see it like, sometimes we have to wait and to see it like like a decade or two later, but change is happening for the positive for our communities. So just want to shout out to that conversation and to the members of my group.
And I can share from my LGBTQ seniors I've worked with as well, is I think that our relationships and our chosen family are so important for us. And so when we hold on to that chosen family, we need to not shy away from hard conversations and authentic relationships with them. I think sometimes with, in the gay community, LGBTQ community, we can sometimes be, a little shady or can sometimes say something that's like, might offend someone. And it takes a lot of vulnerability to go up to someone you value as a friend and say, that actually really hurt my feelings. And can we talk about it? But instead of like, just avoiding that person and potentially, severing a connection. Um, so I think it's so important to, live authentically and have these relationships with people. So all right. And then of course we have one final question from that, and then we will need to wrap up. But our question from for the panel is how about caregivers, which kind of is in the same thread of oftentimes caregivers of LGBTQ older adults or LGBTQ older adults who are caregivers are not necessarily blood family and are part of that chosen family. So, what are some supports available for them?
So there's not many. I could see Sean like, let me see. And I was doing the same thing because I know I'm trying to think. It's been several years. We were briefly funded for a group that was a caregivers group. Actually, let me be specific. It was a caregivers group for LGBTQ people who were caring for someone with dementia. So it was a very specific, very short-lived program. That said, it was really important, and it really would have been beneficial to continue something like that. But there's not a lot, Patrick, which is unfortunate because the strain on caregivers is really, really profound. So, yeah, that's something we need more of.
Agreed. I was racking my brain. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem like many options. I know that here at Rush, through our social work and community health department, we do have a program called Care for Caregivers. I'm not sure if you have to be blood related for that.
No,
So
you do
it's a
not.
no. So I know that that program, you have the individual you're caring for does have to be, I think, 60 and older. But otherwise, it seems like it can be any caregiver. So that I want to shout out them as well, because I think that's like one of not many programs that are out there.
Yeah. So I think also that's an area for continued advocacy for us, is to make sure that caregiver programs are accessible to chosen family as well. And that we also are reaching out to LGBTQ caregivers to make sure that those are something that reaches them. So um, again, thank you all so much for your work and your advocacy and your presence and honest, sharing today. Um, Wishing you all a very happy Pride and happy and healthy Pride. And so, yeah, without further ado, I'll close this out. All right. So again, thank you all so much for today. This will continue to be a resource on our Rush Generations webpage. Sorry, on our YouTube page. And we do have a couple of different announcements for some upcoming programs. So bear with me for that. We currently have, speaking of opportunities for engagement, for people to come through and connect and for us to get more active this summer. Starting on July 10th, going through August 16th on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at the Garfield Park Conservatory. We're having our Walk with Ease program, which is essentially our structured walking group. And we essentially meet for about 30 minutes for an hour for check-in and learning information on how to incorporate healthy habits before embarking on a self-paced walk that can last from 10 to 45 minutes. And then also we have our Shaman Senior Voices program. This program aims to empower older adults to discuss what matters most to them as they age. And we really, really would love to hear from our LGBTQ seniors if you are watching. It is important to share what matters most to you with your physician, with your healthcare team, and with your loved ones. Shaman Senior Voices wants to hear from you, so please consider sharing your wisdom on why it's important for your healthcare team and loved ones to know your goals and wishes and what matters most to you. You can submit this at aging.rush.edu/shalman/collaborate-and-connect, or scan the QR code to record on a mobile device or a smartphone, or to upload a video that you record on your phone. And of course, our next lecture that we'll be having through our Rush Generations Health Education series is our Men's Health Roundtable, which will be on Wednesday, June 26th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. We hope to see you all there. And again, this is our contact information. Rush Generations, feel free to give us a call to learn about all of our upcoming programs and services and get